Okay, so I'm here with Lilo today, and we wanted to sing a song for you guys, and it's I'm Yours from Jason Warwick. So here we go.
It's like straight from the spirit, written for all of us. Well, you done me, and you bet I felt it. I tried to be chill, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks, and now I'm trying to get back. Before the cool done run out, I'll be giving it my bestest. Nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. This is our fate. I'm yours. Well, open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. Look into your heart and you'll find love, 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 love. Listen to the music of the moment. People dance and sing. We're just one big family, and it's our God-forsaken right to be loved, 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 loved. So I won't hesitate no more, no more. This cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to complicate. Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. But I won't hesitate no more, no more. This cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to complicate. Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. Well, open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. Look into your heart and you'll find that the sky is yours. So please don't, please don't, please don't. There's no need to complicate, 'cause our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. Thank you. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna and Lila. It really touched me just to feel. Let's not complicate things, which makes my episode simpler. Yeah, well, I'm taking this to heart. What happened at the end of last week's show or the beginning, where there's no plan. That's really helpful. And just feeling like the topic of today's episode can be no compromise. And we may even invite some people in at some point in the show, just you can ask your questions and open up. As you can see, David's here with me, so we can go all the way again.
Beautiful.
But maybe I could just start it out, because it's been an extremely eventful week, actually. The whole community's been very, very full. And lots of activity. I try to heal it all before the show, but as usual, I have to wait until the show. And yeah, after that expression last week around wanting the heart to expand, Emily and I actually decided to have the relationship maximized. So we're just seeing that really the teaching learning has gone as far as it could there, and just open to how the Spirit wants us to collaborate in different ways and what comes in next. And then so there might be some undercurrents of healing still happening with that. But the main thing that, with regards to no compromise, that I wanted to go into was, or just read one line from the Course. It says, "No compromise is possible. You choose God's peace, or you've asked for dreams, and dreams will come as you requested them." So I've just been having this experience that, like, having shared lots of private thoughts over the years and just being met by lots of love from David or different ones, that, you know, we all have our targets and just different places that it goes, and it is what it is. And I've just been lucky to have been met with a lot of love, but now I feel like I want to go deeper. I can say them. I mean, there's still a fear and a terror. Something comes up in specific to say to somebody. The terror actually just comes up if it's around David. Partly, I have no idea why, which is maybe this show will explore. I feel like there's a lot of love there too, but what's happening to me lately is I'm kind of making decisions not just to say my stupid thoughts, or sometimes people say I have Tourette's for God, either Tourette's around just have to say certain ego things, or say even the Spirit things just really quickly. But I'm trying to go deeper with this. So this theme of no compromise is beautiful. And yet what's happening to me is I just think, okay, how do I go deeper? And I just sink into my mind and really, really go for it. Just like within a few seconds, I hit this fear, and like the jaw will tighten up, or I'll hear a voice that says, "You've got to go tell David this," or "You got to go say that to someone." And I know it'll break some people down, like they'll just collapse. So I don't do that, because I want to be helpful. David can handle it, but then it makes me break down. I'm just wondering, like, how to go deeper with this no compromise, and why if the fear hits so quickly, is that if resistance is high and dedication is my dedication weak, that the fear hits, or is there a way to go through it? Because in terms of function, I can't possibly do more function. Even yesterday, you know, I just woke up and I was freezing, and this pang of fear just hit me, and I had a bath, and as soon as I got out of the bath, first time in 20 years, I just threw up, and I couldn't understand it, and just I had call after call in the midst of all this. It's like handling ministry things and giving clarity here and clarity there, and it's just like and it was amazing. So it's not a matter of having more function, smaller function to be done through. So I don't know if that's enough, something you could speak to.
Yeah. Well, let's explore that. Let's go deeper. Let's go much deeper, in the sense that maybe a context for the whole thing is that, just again, the experience of heaven or nirvana, there is no such thing as compromise. It's an unknown concept. But we could say, in terms of the separation or the fall from grace, that was the first compromise. Not that it was real, but it was the first, because it was an attempt to substitute illusions for the truth. So that's, even though it's not real, it never really happened. In terms of the experience of the perceptual world, that's a biggie, to try to substitute and switch illusions in the place of truth. So that's an enormous compromise. In fact, there's nothing in the world that could even come close to even beginning to show the enormity of that original error or that original compromise. In other words, that's where all these intense emotions come in, is because it really goes way, way back in the mind, all the way back to God. And so you're starting to get an awareness that there really aren't big upsets and small upsets, that even irritation and annoyance, it starts to be like a knife in your back, and that's because the mind's getting more sensitized. It's going back deeper inside toward the original error, which the ego says, you swore never to go back there. You swore in blood never to look upon that original error. And then the whole mind training is learning to go with the Holy Spirit back there towards the intensity of that believed in error. And so I think what's happening is that as some of the defenses start to break down, and you're not so much removed from approaching that. Now it's more like you're saying you need to do that. You'll need to go much deeper, and everything that came before was just the preliminaries, and now you'll have to go face the thing that all the mystics and saints have had to face, whether you call it dark night of the soul, whether you call it ontological guilt, or whatever, the seeming enormity of this original error. That's what's coming up. And really, it's like a fear of love, because love is associated to the ego with loss. So it's like, to the ego, opening up to the light is like the ultimate loss. It's the ultimate sense of loss. And that's where the hesitation can sometimes come in. And even though the original song we just heard there was, I don't have to hesitate, that's like a call to the miracle. I don't have to hesitate anymore. I don't have to try to hide and cover over things anymore. It may be intense to move through the darkness, but that's the only direction to go now. So the seeming breakdowns or emotional intensities, the emotional outburst, or whatever the world judges those things, that's actually a part of the authentic spiritual journey, because you are unwinding from this compromised belief. And most people think of compromise in terms of they're compromising their preferences, but actually all preferences are part of the human being construct. I've said before that the human being's like a linear preference package, and basically there's judgment connected with the fabric of the entire human being. So even being human is a compromise. To believe that you were born human, or like some of the songs say, you're only human, born to make mistakes. That's not actually true. You are not only human. You were not born to make mistakes. You were created by a perfect, loving being, and you're in the likeness of that beautiful being, God. And so to hold on to the human construct is actually part of the compromise as well. So you might have heard that some saints and mystics talk about these mystical experiences, and when they go into these mystical experiences, or if they're even sustained mystical experiences, they don't describe them in human terms. Even human words start to fail when they are asked what happened to you. They can't describe it. I was just watching a new movie that just came out, I think. It's called Beyond, and it's basically this astronaut goes through a wormhole, and they completely lose touch with the astronaut. And then the whole movie is basically showing that once you go beyond that, through that wormhole, it's absolutely indescribable in human terms. What is through there, what they call in the space station and the space exploration, it's the unknown. To go into a wormhole, they're talked about even in Star Trek. Going in, we've seen episodes of what seems to be going into a wormhole. But in one sense, when you go on the spiritual adventure, you're praying for everything that you believe, every concept that you hold, to be emptied from the mind. That's really what the prayer is. When you say, "Here I come, God, and I'm going for spiritual awakening," you're really saying, "Let my mind be emptied of all concepts." And then the most important thing is to remember that the Spirit is in charge of that. So you'll find that the only tension and the only pressure comes from a holding on to concepts, like saying, "No, God, I don't want to know my divine abstraction. I would rather be tiny, and I would rather be this concept or that concept." And so the Holy Spirit is going to keep exchanging the concepts, loosening the mind from the identification with these concepts until there's an entire let go. And only in that entire let go is there a complete release from compromise. Every step along the way will just be, we could call it guidance. It's just loosening from concepts. So let's take a look at something specific. Like, you've just gone through a little bit over, was it over 3-year marriage with Emily? And so even marriage is a concept. It's just a device that the Holy Spirit can use. And you were kind of aware, even in entering into the marriage, that there was some major control issues. And marriage is actually a very good device for undoing control. Anybody in the audience here agree with me? Oh, I see some hands in the audience. I see some waving hands there. Marriage is a great device that the Holy Spirit can use to clear away control. And I think you were aware that there were things that you kind of had reached a point where you were really wanting to take a closer look at that, and that did come up a number of times during your married life, so to speak. It was very, very, very strong. And so that's, the Holy Spirit just uses the concepts to undo the concepts, uses time to undo the belief in time, uses relationships, a marriage, to undo the belief. And maybe I can explain this using Course in Miracle terms. Some of you know in the Manual for Teachers, Jesus talks about the 10 characteristics of a teacher of God. And most everyone remembers the first one, because it's the one that the rest are all based on. That's trust. And if you go to the last one, number 10, Jesus says it's probably the last to come in. It's open-mindedness. Well, that open-mindedness is actually what non-compromise is about. You are so clueless about the world. You are so open-minded in terms of your identification. You are so open-minded by the time you reach the 10th characteristic of a teacher of God that you are not really identified with any of the specific concepts of the world. In fact, as you get to open-mindedness, you don't even know what a situation is anymore. You don't even know what a situation is. When people say, well, here's the situation is just a compilation of constructs. And so people try to get a grasp on what are we talking about here? Well, here's the situation. And the situation is nothing more than a story that's trying to explain the impossible. But as you move towards open-mindedness, you actually move beyond what I call situational thinking. You don't even think in terms of situations anymore. You can see how different your life would be if you're not thinking about your family or your children or your job or your career or your house or your household chores. All of these are just part of constructs that are part of the self-concept. And when you follow that trust so deeply, then you actually become so clueless that you're not even aware of situations. You don't even know where one situation would begin and where the other would end. It sounds ridiculous to talk about a situation because it's just a construct. And your mind training has taken you to a place where you're free of those constructs. So I think when you feel a doubt or a hesitation, or maybe even, let's use that example where you start to have what you call those stupid thoughts that start to come up. You wake up and all of a sudden you're hit with some real strong stupid thoughts, and then what do? If it seems to be a matter of, well, I can just deny them, maybe you get to the point where you're like, I can't deny that they're there. And in some cases, you feel like you're prompted to expose them because there seems to be an unease or a relaxation that comes in. But in the end, even those, we'll call them stupid thoughts that are coming into awareness are coming where? From the self-concept. They're not coming from God. They're obviously coming, rising up from the self-concept. And there's like a persona or a mask that is trying to come in there and judge them. Like, oh, I can't live with these thoughts. And really, you can't live with them. It's going deeper to that point where you start to realize that you aren't those thoughts, that you aren't limited by those thoughts, you aren't defined by those thoughts aren't who you are. And yet it's through these relationships and through opportunities to be unconditionally loved and realize that you're not judged in any way, shape, or form for those thoughts. Those are actual experiences that you have where you start to realize, wow, it's moving through, but it's not taking a toll on me. It's not harming me. They're not causing anything, And we have a whole world out there where if somebody tweets something, they lose their job, or somebody puts something on Facebook and they lose their job. There seems to be consequences in this world for the sharing of those thoughts inappropriately. But even all of those things, losing your job, losing your partner, losing your reputation or whatever, those are all still part of the self-concept. It's still part of this loss, this belief that loss is real. And that's what we're coming to see, that there is no loss in any of this.
So how do you, like when I wake up or something and have those thoughts, that I do feel a temporary release, how do I know if that's just like delaying me from facing what's deeper, where if I don't say them, I kind of get pulled into something? And then it seemed to what happened the last day or two was like, okay, more vigilance, but I don't know if that's a tightness or I'm actually going in the right direction. You can't tell. It's like
well, I think, you were aware that maybe you could say much of your life you just repressed a lot of things. I could certainly relate to that because that was my mechanism too. I just would not let certain things come into awareness. I felt fatigue. I felt all kinds of things that were coming from repressing these thoughts and trying to control the behavior, but ignore the thoughts was kind of the way. And then I think you got to a point where you just saw that was very detrimental, and it was really harming your expansion, your growth, your spiritual growth. So in one sense, you kind of swung the other way. That's where the Tourette's for God thing came in. And certainly, I'm sure if you talk to Emily, she would say that this has been no relationship or no marriage like she's ever had, because you, during some of those years, would just let fly with things and say in certain seeming situations, the worst thing people would say, that's the worst thing you could say to your wife. You need coaching, you need marital counseling. But there was a love underneath there, and there was a trust underneath there, and pretty soon you kept allowing it to happen. And Emily the ego took a lot of hits, but then there was something underneath that was healing about all that. And so you both, took that devotion, that willingness to, okay, this is for healing. If I'm upset, it's because some interpretation I'm making. It's not because of what somebody else said or what somebody else did. I'm just upsetting myself with some kind of egoic interpretation, and my prayer is to release those interpretations. So I think, as you move along at this point where you feel that relationship's been maximized, really the prayer of your heart to the Holy Spirit is like, I want this expansion to continue. I want to have more and more experiences that I am not these thoughts that are passing through, that are being released. I am something way beyond that, and I want more and more experiences, actual experiences of that non-compromise, that I can just fully be in alignment with no hesitation, no sense of compromise, no sense of trade-offs or bargains or all those. Holding back. No sense of that. That's what you're praying for right now.
And I feel like alive when you say that, but I also have this, like I hear, like, I've done this so many times before, and it works. I keep expanding, but it's taking a long time.
You're not wearing your watch. You don't even have a watch. You're looking to your wrist. How long?
Yeah. Well, one of the things when you were talking about Emily too is like, what made me even allow it to be maximized, like feel complete, was like the big lesson for me was commitment to her. As I had to, not abstractly, I had to commit to her, because in that, like, I'd seen a push away from certain types, personalities, body types, or what the Spirit was sending me. And then I actually found a place where I saw it wasn't about her. It was like from that movie, The Maze Runner, where, you wouldn't change a thing, and I will never look back, even in the most difficult situations. And I was like, oh my God, that's what this is for. And I committed to life. Like, I really felt like this is a partnership for life. I felt it. But I've had a few witnesses say to me, like, including internal thoughts, that no, you're not committed because it's ending, or you weren't. And I don't know, I just feel like, was that the only lesson? That to be committed, and once I did it, then now I'm like shot through. Were there other lessons I succeeded at? And is it true I'm not committed? It's like a lot. It's just sitting in there.
Well, I think I've talked a lot about commitment, but commitment can be aimed toward a marriage, a relationship, a diet routine, an exercise routine. Even with A Course in Miracles, I think people could say, well, that studying and practicing A Course in Miracles on a daily basis, that requires a commitment. And so the context of commitment is that the ego doesn't even know what commitment is. It has no idea what commitment is. It's not part of its makeup. It's not like this rebellious idea that believes it could replace God and love and truth. Even knows what commitment is. And then the mind that's fallen asleep is in great need of commitment, because it's lost. It's completely lost its identity. And then the atonement is a total commitment. You can't be totally committed sometimes. It's going to require a complete let go, a complete transformation of consciousness, a complete turnaround from upside down thinking to right side up thinking. And so I would say that if you look at commitment, I would say ultimately the commitments that involve relationships and things in time, of course they're temporary by nature. They have to be, because time is temporary itself. So any commitment inside of time is temporary, but the real commitment, the one that is going to be the most beneficial, is going to be, of course, to the mind training, is committing to watching your mind. And human beings are not naturally mind watchers. They're so caught up into the screen of the world, and they're so caught up into the images and the outcomes. They don't even know what a mind is. If you ask a lot of people, they say, oh yeah, I have a brain. But they would tell you more likely they have a brain than a mind. The mind they're not so sure of, because the whole world was made to forget the mind. and make up all these substitutes that are just distractions. So if you come back further and further and further, this is what you're being asked by the Spirit to really commit to in a deeper and deeper way, is to watching your mind, carefully watching your mind in a very deep, uncompromising way, not letting one scrap of fear, one scrap of guilt, one scrap of shame remain, that you remain hidden, remain out of awareness. You want everything brought to the Holy Spirit for healing release.
When I do that and I just hit this, still like something, it's like right away, I don't know if it's fear or, and then it's like something tightens. Does that mean I'm not ready, or there's a way through that? Like, how do
Yeah, I think that it's good to notice it, but there is a way through. There always is a way through that tightness. But as you go through the day, that's why you wake up and you're really giving the day over. Like in Rules for Decision, you're really saying, if I may make no decisions by myself, this is the day that will be given me. So you're really now letting go of the control of the days. That's ultimately what it is. And maybe even like you have some ideas, you certainly were on the call yesterday with many calls, and what we would associate with function being used by the Spirit. That is important, because as you go with that more and more and more, you come more to this feeling like these days are not my own. Like the way my day unfolds is not at random. I am practicing throughout the day at deciding with the Holy Spirit, at joining with the Holy Spirit, and letting everything in my perception be a reflection of my devotion to the Holy Spirit. So you see, that's where all of our commitments go, and our dedication goes to the Holy Spirit. It may start out with a partner. It may start out with raising a child. It may start out with a career, or different ways. They all take commitments. It takes a bit of a commitment even to ride a bike. When we were children, if we just tried to just jump on it and pedal, it probably would not have worked out very well. Made a big crash. But it took even a commitment to learn how to pedal and balance on a bike. But all those little temporary commitments are just all backdrop for making that devotional commitment to the mind training. And that's coming from a place of, I am worth it. I am worth peace of mind. I am worth happiness. I am worth love. And nothing I think or do or say or make determines my worth. My worth is established by God. Now, God is truth. And if the human construct is a compromise, then in the end, I'm going to have to surrender and yield over to truth completely. That's the only way I'll be eternally happy, is to yield back into my creation and into my identity as God created it. That's going to bring the only ultimate relief, the only everlasting peace and joy and happiness. But that's what mysticism is about, is such devotion to God, such devotion to that awakening purpose, that all else can be forsaken, because all else was projected out by the ego as a defense to guard against that truth. Truth has no exceptions. The ego makes exceptions and comparisons all the time. It's a exceptions device. It is a comparison device. It is a judgment device. And there's no way that I can stay identified with that device and know who I truly am. So this puts it into a context. We need that context. No one who is caught up in the judgments and the comparisons of this world has a clue about truth, because it's like an amnesia. Truth has been completely forgotten and pushed out of awareness. But as I learn to nurture that devotion, and I really say and mean, I will make no decisions by myself. I want to be guided in every decision that I make. That is the devotion that leads to the wake-up.
It's funny because I thought I was fully committed, and then it's like this is like the third or fourth time where it's like I was starting over again or something. I don't even know what. Like if that ring of fear is still got to go. I don't even know if that's the ring of fear, but if I still have to go through that, because I don't want to just use the things that come at me as things to keep my mind stable anymore. I want to use them, like almost reverse it, like you're saying. Somehow reverse it where it's, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the setting the goal. That's having the purpose out front. That's where the ease comes in. The divine ease is having the purpose out front, really firmly setting that goal in front. And that's so different from being a human being, where there seems to be all these goals that are generated by the ego, and they're all self-concept goals, you know, to please people, to accommodate people, to get along with people, you know, to accomplish things in this world, to achieve things in this world. All those things I just mentioned are self-concept goals. God has nothing to do with any of those. And you can see where someone like Jesus is a great example of that divine presence coming there, and he's just abiding in that I am presence. And in one sense, he is oblivious to the world of images, because in that state of mind, he's not concerned about outcomes. He's not trying to teach there's a kingdom of heaven on earth on timeline. He's in the I am. He's in the moment. He's living in that presence, and then everything that radiates from that the Spirit is using is just all the words, all the thoughts, all the actions, all the laughs, all the hugs, all the smiles. Everything that's coming from that Christ presence is for the whole universe. But he's not interacting with a world. He's not like acting and reacting to a world anymore. He's reached a very, you could say, a very strongly aligned presence that's just completely, I could say, vertical, and it's not horizontal at all. And that's the direction that this is going. We can't seem to make 1,000 compromises every day and feel fatigued by those compromises. We have to become increasingly guided by the Holy Spirit and increasingly invigorated and inspired and living with vitality and joy and glee. And that, of course, is showing us that we're moving in our state of mind toward a complete alignment with God.
Like with a day like yesterday, do you think I could still make compromises on individual specifics anymore, or is it just trusting everything?
Well, I think you said to me that like you were just answering every call and message without that can be fatiguing. That sounds a little bit, like Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce, Jesus has mentioned in some of the notes that basically Cayce, his healing was amazing, but it could have been more spectacular if he'd have been under Christ's control. He got a little bit into egoic things of seeing so many clients. I mean, so many thousands and thousands of clients and treatments that he did, that it actually took a toll on him, and the toll got projected out to his body. So in that sense, you have to go through the day. There may be those days where you're not to respond to any messages or taking any calls. Have a Ramana Maharshi day. We'll call it a Maharshi day, which is the best for the whole universe. Actually, it's not to be, constantly on the phone taking all those messages, and that's part of a discernment. Lisa was working with Eric recently on that, where he's been so full on in function, and it was like, now step back, now, delegate, now nurture within, and that's very important, very, very important as well.
Maybe the last thing is like it's an unresolved thing that arises, like, especially when those stupid thoughts come up. I remember one time in Hawaii with you where my projection was high. Like I really believed certain things, and I'd like to think it's not so tight anymore. They're just okay. There's projections, But you told me because you always gave me such permission, and when I said the things to you, underneath it, I remember having a prayer, is this helpful? And you just, in my perception, were like very firm, like, okay, it's time for you to take this to your meditations and deal with it, or something. Maybe you didn't say deal, but and it's hard because it went through rejection, but I actually felt, okay, great. I don't have to have that thought anymore of, do I say it or don't I? And it worked. I was grateful. And so now when this comes up again, it's like, I hear that and then I'm like, okay, don't, but I don't know if it still applies anymore, or it's, because you're not really interested in hearing private thoughts, really. I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
like,
it's not so much. It still comes back to the guidance about what serves the whole, what's best for the whole universe. That's really the larger context. And so it's not like we have rules around that. It's like we just trust the Holy Spirit to guide us in what will be helpful, what will be useful. I mean, we had recently, you remember Strawberry, where there was a gentleman on the side there that started to go into something and elaborate, and then Kirsten pretty directly brought him back, to something pertinent to what he was going through, or something related to Strawberry, not some story from long ago or whatever. And it was beautiful because it was very firm, very gentle. And then later on, I happened to be out there, and there was Kirsten and the gentleman was saying, "Thank you so much for doing that." He was actually thanking her for what was a very firm, like almost seen as a stop and redirect. And so again, it's the motive that's underneath that's the most important thing. It's not the actions or the words or cutting somebody off or anything like that. It's just the love underneath. You could feel it was coming from a sense of love when Kirsten delivered it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're in this all the way, We're going to walk through this and go for it, and it's so precious. Yeah, it's all for this.
I just want to give away what I've been given you. Okay, well, we can open it up if anybody has any questions.
Did we establish our phone line yet? We haven't got that far. Okay, our switchboard is lighting up. We have our audience. We can see some of you. Your smiling faces.
We have someone with their hand up, okay. Kelly and Julie actually has her hand up, so it's like you're unmuted, Kelly.
Oh wow! Oh geesh, this is like whoa! Inside of me, Jason, you've just been such a power for me, and these sharings that you've been doing have just been so candid that it just allows me to become more candid. But, I gotta say, you guided me a few years ago that pissed me off so bad. And, but it was the most healing thing for me, and I look today and I realized with David talking here and I knew it in my mind that I felt like it was coming from your past, from your self-concept. And, but yet I followed what you said to me. And even if it came from your self-concept, it doesn't matter because it was healing for me. So I believe the Holy Spirit works through our unhealed mind to help unhealed minds to eventually heal our mind. It's all beautiful. It's all absolutely beautiful. So I am, this whole living communities and all these volunteers that work so hard to get you up on the screen so we can all be on the screen. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot, but it's all for our awakening. I'm shaking inside. I love this. There wasn't a time I loved it. There's many times I go in and out. I lose my trust in you guys, and I regain my trust in you guys. I'm in trust right now, and I like this, Love you, David. Love you, Jason. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Beautiful. Julie? So Julie's hand waving,
Okay. Yes. Hi. Well, I'm so glad that I can hear you all today, and I can go through what I'm going through right now, because after I talked to you last week, what happened is very, very fast. I asked for obvious, make it obvious. I just forgot the gentle. So so it's been obvious. It started with ego backslash, is that how you call it? Anyways, I felt ashamed of having shared, and here I am sharing it again. So here you go, ego. About last week, and then I can 2 days after or 3 days after, there was I was meditating, and I opened my eyes. It was afternoon. I opened my eyes, and I could not see outside. It was all white with smoke, and it's been smoky in the city because of fire around in the forest. But this was thick. So I ran outside on the balcony. I'm on the 3rd floor, and there's a fire. So make a long story short, the house next door was on fire for 8 hours, and it's so close to my house. Like, it's the roof almost touched, and the flames were licking the roof of my house. And we were just watching. There was firefighters all the way. I've never seen as many. And we were just watching, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, but very calm inside. It's like all the action was kind of like I lose track of time. It was such a turmoil around, and the noise and the smoke and everything, emotions, but inside me, it was still like there was such a stillness. Like, it's like I could have stayed there for a few weeks, actually. So anyways, the water that they poured on my house for hours made a lot of damage. So we have to evacuate the house. I cannot live there. I have 2 days, and day 1 is today. And here I am listening to you and being with you, because it's so important to me. But there is, so I have to leave this place. I'm homeless. And so I feel I'm guided. I'm scared. And I want to thank you because what you were talking about earlier, David, is so much talking to me. It's all crumbling around everywhere, and like I don't have insurance, for instance. Like it's I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow. And yet I feel joy, and I'm scared, but I feel joy at the same time. So there it is. And thank you for being with me. Thank you all.
Yeah, sometimes there are seemingly external circumstances that all are part of the plan and all are helpful, even though the ego would judge against certain ones. But yeah, it seems like you might be chased by the flames closer and closer to our community, to living in our community. That yeah. And the funny thing was, it's like, I don't think a lot of people. I think people in general know there's that heat wave. I mean, the temperatures all around the globe are much higher. Here in Utah, we had fires. California has had a lot of fires, but I was actually on my iPhone a couple of days ago, and it said satellite view of the fires across the globe, and it actually had a satellite view. And I looked, oh my God, look at Canada, because I could see the bright red in Canada. It was all very visual. And then I saw a little bit down in Utah and in California, and I was looking all over the globe at a whole thing of the globe. And then the lower part of Africa was flashed like way more than I never hear news about Africa. It's like the bottom part of Africa is just, for thousands of miles, is just bright red, and all these other little spots. And yet I always remember all things work together for good, and there are no accidents, and that it's all part of us coming back deeper into the spirit, into our true reality. And it's, in one sense, it's part of the plan that things seem to fall apart. And so I'm just so grateful that you can feel the love and feel the connection. And also, even when things in form seem to be smoky and burning or waterlogged or falling apart and chaotic, that that's all part of an awakening to that which is still. And thank you so much for sharing that, the stillness that you are, and that you radiate, and that you were in that stillness, in the midst of all that. That's just such a beautiful witness for all of us, because that's like a reminder for all of us of what this is all really about. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, we've got another one. Thank you, Julie. Melissa? Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you. I wanted to express, it's so helpful for me to hear you and hear everybody expressing so raw. I feel that way. And yeah, it is very helpful. David, I remember you asking for feedback on the Strawberry Festival and what's relevant. And my experience today, it's like all you sharing what you guys are present with at the moment supports me. So yeah, thank you. Because talking theoretically or what has happened, yes, that is helpful too. But yeah, it's been great today. Yeah, and I feel those spaces where when I hear it from someone apparently outside of myself, it just blanked away. It's okay. But yeah, it's helpful, and a lot for me has been coming up to in the arranging everything to movement and the car and trusting again that spirit's got it somehow, some way. I find myself wanting to know what's going to happen or how it's going to get solved. Yeah, so the trust in spirit, it's being worked on in my mind right now, and it's so helpful to join with all of you and and everything. And so recently that our relationship being maximized to mine with Kyle, it seems so far away already. yeah. So it's a beautiful journey. Yeah.
You're so with us. It's so beautiful. We feel your love and presence. It's just like you're right with us. And I just happened to see on the Facebook feed this morning the items you had on Facebook that you're putting up for people to come and offer what they can offer. And it's just so beautiful because many of us have done those kind of things. And many of us have had these moves where we don't know how it's going to go and we don't know when things will sell, and yet we put them all up with faith and say, okay, God, you're in charge, and I'm coming towards you, and yet these changes seemingly around a partnership like you had with Kyle, and where you live, and all these things, getting prepared to go to Mexico. It's a lot. So we're with you, and just know that love and that connection is so strong, and that, things, sometimes we can't really tell with the movement of things. We're in a building here where for the last 2 years we were open to selling it, and not one, but 2, 3 different times the Spirit made it obvious to us, no. Have you right where I want you? No. And here we are broadcasting, and having this great connection. And so, we just stay very open. But we feel your heart, and you're right there with us step by step.
I was talking about you yesterday, so we'll see you in Mexico soon.
So
beautiful. Okay, well, there's nobody else, so either we change topics or ask again. So let me just pray. Hey, we can all have a 1-minute meditation. Well, I have a topic I'd like to go into a little more. It's only 5 to 1, if I feel. Yeah. 1. It's just, because some of you were on my show last week. Part of, you might have seen that there was an expansion or heart opening with Lilo, and it wasn't sure if it was for the project or just to maximize the relationship with Emily or what. And so now that I've had the deep talks with Emily, it feels like, okay, I can really explore what this is. And then, I don't know if it's just because of the last few days or what, but I've started to lose that really high idea of what is like, whoa, big heart spark. But I remember early on when I was talking with Lilo, one of the things that we both really felt so strongly, and I mean, it was amazing how clear to me, because I've been in relationships where I want something from them, like affectionately wise or sexually, and then others where I was just like this, and I could really feel that that even that attraction that can come up is uncomfortable. Kind of like what Nicholas said on his show today, that it's a trick to think that it's something you want, and it's uncomfortable. It's the same as the push. And so it was like, wow, I'll just be shown how to move forward every step. I want to say if at all, but I guess right now I have to say if at all. And it was like really powerful for me. And then, yeah, we've been joining, I don't know if I say a lot, but more. And just having her on with the song is beautiful, and it really touches my heart. But there's just a deeper question for me around, like, how do you keep that spark really high and remember what it's all for, and not try to push away because, like, I get these fears or thoughts come up that people, I guess I'm projecting it, will think I'm wanting something from her or making something special. Or the flip side is, if I just go for it, I've had witnesses say too that, you know, don't move too fast, whatever that means. And I don't know, I don't even know the real question, but there's something deeper that I have to keep this in the realm of serving the whole, but I still see the whole as sometimes people. So I don't know. Yeah, but I don't even know the question.
Yeah, well, I think it's in terms of relationship, in terms of all aspects of what seem to be, you know, your expressions. It's coming back to, for me, I always talked about what's the tickle in my heart. You know, what really, because that I could learn early on to trust the tickle in my heart, because it was so unlike anything ever I had experienced. And so I just said, oh, this is definitely of the spirit, and I'm going to trust the tickle. But I think it's being really watchful of any kind of patterns. Like you said, you had such a full day of being used with all these different people, but just to watch, you know, if you have any fatigue coming in, or if you start to feel overwhelmed, frustrated in some way, you know, it's becoming more and more honest and more attentive to how am I feeling, what is my state of mind. And I think that would apply even to your joinings with Lilo. You know, you have to be very attentive to that, in the sense that also not trying to, if you notice anything from the past kind of rising up, that's kind of like another attempt to replay something, you have to be very aware of that and stay very open. As I mentioned that earlier in the show, that you're wanting to move towards open-mindedness, towards that tabula rasa, blank slate experience, where you're just open and you're available to spirit. It's like very much like the St. Francis prayer, Lord, make me an instrument. You know, that's a prayer, a very deep prayer of the heart. And to be able to hold that prayer and to really lead with that prayer, and then, you know, as St. Augustine said, and I think I heard Nicholas mention, love and do what you will. That's really staying with that prayer. So it's very different from holding on to like a relationship in terms of the world, where there's often lots and lots of planning that occurs. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, you know, hopes and dreams and plans. It very, very much can be very egoic. And then there can be all kinds of disappointments when things don't go that way. And so I think this is the time of really being present and allowing yourself an openness, and just being very attentive, maybe more attentive to your feelings than you've been before.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel
Being really willing for that. Like, I'm going to be really attentive to my feelings. I think Nicholas also mentioned on their show about the one right use of judgment. How do you feel? And really focusing on that and using that will be very helpful.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can feel it. It's like it's not specific, but I can just feel I can do that.
Yeah. And then you've had a lot of relationship experiences, but again, through the past filter of how it's gone, and you've had a marriage, and then this attentiveness to how you feel, and really, it's almost like you're saying to Spirit, show me. I need you to show me. I need you to lead me. Not to make it obsessive, like it talks about in the rules for decision. You know, don't try to be obsessive, like I'm going to make every single decision today with the Spirit, and then kind of get obsessed into that, because people get all kinds of frustration with that. But like he says, more, if you kind of get your mind set, you get your purpose out front, and you kind of get in the direction of a helpful day, a truly helpful day, staying present, then it becomes more natural. And that's what you want. You want it to be natural. You don't want it to be flipping back and forth, or having a lot of struggle with it. You want it to become more consistent.
It's beautiful, because even with Emily, we might go up today or tomorrow, and it's been like, okay, just let her really be in her joy and recover and be with Lisa and join. And yet, when's the right time to maybe sing a song or have a hug? It's like,
it's going past those old ideas of X this, or, you know, those are just more boxes. How's your ex? Oh, please, I don't even need to go there. I'm staying present. And that, you want that unconditional agape love to just shine through and pour through to everyone and everything, and without exception. That's the prayer of the heart.
Thank you. I love this ministry.
Yeah, me too. We feel so grateful. We're here joined with all of you, and you're all with us, and we're all practicing together. I love it. I love seeing your smiling faces, and love seeing and connecting with you like this.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks for another episode of From the Bottom Up. Wow, we get lots of pictures.
Yeah, the whole screen.